story that will touch a nerve in every household. You have social media, children are addicted to it, and here you have the Supreme Court that says we won't ban it. So, giving you a quick look as to what the Supreme Court has decided on. The Supreme Court has spoken, and it's a verdict that hits home for every parent, teacher and policymaker. Today, the court ruled against banning minors from social media, saying a blanket ban is neither practical nor constitutional. The case stemmed from a petition urging a complete ban on anyone under 18 from accessing social media, arguing that it leads to addiction, bullying and even exploitation. But the bench made it quite clear, you can't disconnect an entire generation to protect them from the internet. Because if you do, then they'll find other ways to get to it. The court observed clearly, what's more important is education, creativity and social interaction today that flows through digital spaces. So that's also benefiting children of that age. Banning access to social media could in fact be more of harm than of help. The court observed, saying instead of prohibition, the Supreme Court states very clearly that regulation is important, age verification is important, tools to ensure that these children are getting the right content, algorithms pushing the right content, age-appropriate content to these children is important, privacy safeguards is important, and accountability from tech platforms. Basically, they're the ones who handle algorithms and they've got to ensure verification process, age, all those tools are set appropriately, and they're the ones who will be held accountable if not. The government too informed the bench that new online safety rules under the proposed Digital India Act are also in the works, focused on protecting minors without cutting them off from the digital world. But the ruling leaves India with tough questions. In a world where children are growing up with screens in hand, absolutely no filter, no monitoring, they just have a free run on these platforms. How much is our responsibility as parents, as schools, as platforms itself? Who needs to do what to ensure that children grow up in the way we want them to? Because awareness alone is not enough, surely. We have to rely on education and vigilance. Is it just that, or should there be stronger laws? What does the law of our country suggest? The Supreme Court has now drawn the line not to ban, but to balance it out between freedom and protection in the virtual world. How do we do it? We have cyber experts, a cyber expert, Pawan Duggal, as well as our psychologist joining us on the panel. Thanks very much, both of you. Mr. Pawan Duggal, I'll start with you first on a quick look into what the Supreme Court has said, saying we can't ban it. Outright refusal to ban social media, which I think was expected. I'm not too sure if any country in the world today has banned social media for teenagers. We were wondering if India would be the first, but clearly not. The court has said regulation from at the end of the government and at the end of these platforms is more important. Could you really tell us on the responsibility platforms have and the kind of laws that India has to govern this?
Well, clearly what the Supreme Court has said is nothing but a reiteration of existing ground realities. If the petitioners wanted social media to be banned, they were obviously living on a different planet. Today, social media is an integral part of our lives. There's no way you can now ban social media. But yes, regulation of social media requires a lot of things that are required to be done. It's in this context that the Supreme Court's focus on regulation, self-regulation, and capacity building is of massive significance. Today, once you have already given the taste of blood to people, they are not going to be off this social media taste for a long time. And whether we like it or not, social media has induced two very significant sociological revolutions in India. One is the great Indian recording revolution, where Indians are recording everything online and putting it online. And the other one is the great Indian data vomiting revolution, where Indians are vomiting data about their personal, professional, social lives on the internet without thinking of the legal ramifications. So in this regard, sensitizing children, sensitizing youngsters, and sensitizing adults about the ill effects of social media, the impact that posting on social media could have upon your personal privacy and data privacy is an impact that must be sensitized amongst users. For the last more than a decade, I've been telling the government, it's time that you must start interpreting awareness and education about social media, cyber law, and cybercrime in the school curriculum from the first standard onwards. The reason for this is very clear. Today, we have, as Indians, started giving devices to children at very young ages.
Yeah.
Consequently, we are throwing them into the deep sea waters of social media without even sensitizing on empowering them or how they can protect themselves. So, a lot of work needs to be done in this regard. But the stand taken by the Supreme Court is indeed very admirable. Supreme Court is led by its thought leadership, its vision, its foresight, its pragmatic approach, and more significantly, in coming its decision, the Supreme Court has embodied the hopes and aspirations of millions of Indians. Well, today, you today cannot have a dignified right to human dignified life without having access to the internet. So the Supreme Court has rightly acted as the guardian of the Constitution, the guardian of the fundamental rights, and has given the right direction in terms of how social media needs to be regulated through self-regulation and also through regulation so as to go ahead and meet the challenges thrown up by social media.
What are the effects on these teenagers? Mentally, what kind of defects can they develop over time? Dr. Ruchi Gupta, thanks very much. Your take on the psychological toll that this could have, excessive use of social media that could have on developing minds. As much as we say they should not use it, that's the only thing that we give them when we want them to be distracted or shut up. When you're busy as busy parents, the first thing you do is just grant them the phone for a little while so that they stop bothering you. What's the mental effect?
It has been a lot of studies have been done to figure out the effect of social media on teenagers, especially between the ages of 14 and 18. It is a very critical adolescent period, and we see that there is a lot of mental toll which is being taken because of social media. The children who are spending more than 3 hours on any kind of gadgets, especially and indulging in social media, they have high propensity for anxiety, depression, suicidality, ideation, as well as suicide rate, as well as stress, overall stress. These are the mental effects of excessive social media on children and adolescents.
Well, how does online validation, especially, what does that do to your mind? Your instant gratification, someone's liking what you post, following you, commenting. But at that age, you're so sensitive to all of that. At my age, I still don't care if 2 likes come or 200 likes come. But children take that very personally. Give us a sense on how that could affect them as they're growing older. What kind of impact would it have on their performance levels?
See, in adolescence, the biggest task of an adolescent is to develop a self identity and a self concept. Okay, and then what happens is that we are in a era where there is so much of dopamine toxicity as well as dopamine rush which we are exposing our children because of the social media. So now what happens that every time you get a like or you get a thumbs up, there is a small amount of dopamine release in your brain. So the child wants this rush again and again. So your self validation, your identity starts coming from what kind of validation or likes or comments which you start getting on the on social media. So the entire dopamine rush as well as dopamine addiction which is happening in this younger age group is because of extreme dependency on social media for self-validation.
Right. Right, Mr. Pawan Duggal, for parents watching this who had some hope that maybe a ban would have done good, because then they don't, the responsibility is off their shoulder, right? They don't have to say no to their children, because saying no is another task, because then you're becoming the villain to your parents, to your children. The parents don't want to be that. But Mr. Duggal,
Yes.
this what do you believe is the best way forward? Parents talking talking their children out of it, or just refusing a phone altogether? Because can you depend on algorithms? And also the law that governs these platforms on, do you believe that we are strict enough? Mr. Dugal?
Well, I don't think that as a country, our laws are stringent enough so as to have complete regulation of social media. We have Section 79 of the IT Act, which provides them statutory exemption from legal liability. But the time has come where we cannot allow these social platforms to be mere mayhem. Then they have to be accountable, they have to be responsible. And that's the reason the government of India needs to be commended, because they've now come up with a draft information technology media ethics code amendment 2025. They are straddling these AI service providers and intermediaries with responsibility for labeling AI generated content or synthetically generated content in order to warn all users. But I think as time passes by, India must have a very, very strong, stringent accountability mechanisms for these service providers. It's, as far as parents are concerned, let's quickly realize that as bossy parents, we are unwelcome. We can only make an impact, make a dent, if we behave with them as their co-friends, as people whom they can trust. And therefore, generating a conversation on the dining table about some recent event could be a good starting point for us to elicit the viewpoint of the child and sensitize the child about the negative ramifications of social media.
Yeah.
And let's remember, the Australian experiment last year has failed. They tried to ban social media for children below 16 years. The children revolt.
Well, we seem to have a problem with your connection, Mr. Dugal.
To go ahead and access the ban content.
Okay. Well, that's all I have time for. I really appreciate Mr. Dugal and Dr. Gupta for joining us on this. Thanks very much.